Okay, so exploring how the 5 whys of business can help solve problems for businesses, but how we might apply that to human problems, repetitive patterns that we might have.
Those behaviours that you find yourself in, or those situations, why am I doing this again?
Okay, so tell me about the 5 whys of business.
This is a root cause analysis way of thinking. Has been used by companies like Toyota very successfully to get rid of waste. Find the real problem and then spend money on the real problem rather than what you think the problem or assume the problem is. And to find the real problem, you go through the systematic asking why at least 5 times.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So the common example when they're talking about this in business, to explain it, is about the Jefferson statue. There was a statue that needed harsh cleaning, and this was expensive. So the question arose, first, why? Why is the statue actually deteriorating? Because harsh chemicals are needed.
Okay.
So why are harsh chemicals needed to clean the statue? Because the statue's got bird droppings on it. Well, why are there bird droppings on the statue? Because there's lots of spiders around. Why are there lots of spiders around? Because there's lots of swarms of insects for the spiders to eat. Why are there lots of swarms of insects around the statue? The swarms of insects are there at certain times of the day, like at dusk, when lights come onto the statue in a certain way. That's also when the droppings would eventually happen as well, just down the line. So the solution then was not about finding cheaper chemicals, less harsh chemicals, not clean. It was about changing the light so you don't attract the insect.
Yes, okay.
So you could reflect the light onto park benches nearby, lots of other options.
Yeah.
But you followed 5 why to see the broader context.
You've got a great solution there. Thinking outside the box kind of solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, so applying that to a behavioural issue. What's an example of a behavioural issue? It's quite common.
So, drinking more than we should. Drinking more alcohol than we should.
Okay, so we're going to apply this 5 whys to that situation. Let's just give a bit more information about the situation. So, someone is finishing work and they've told themselves they're not going to go out drinking, and they're going.
Or even if they want to, go out drinking, they know the limits that are set. And ideally, there's more information to say that there's no safe limit on alcohol.
Yeah.
So they justify in their heads, I'd like to have a drink with my friends after work. I'd like to have 1 or 2 drinks.
Yeah.
I've had 4 again.
Yeah.
Or I've had 6 again.
Okay.
So why?
So the first why might be the situation. So the situation is the friends are going out drinking, and
so why do you want to go out?
Why do they want to go out drinking?
Because I want to be with my friends.
Yeah.
I want to socialise, but not. Yeah.
Okay, so that might be the
Event.
second. Yeah, that's the event. Yeah, and then there's the second why might be the thoughts around that. Like,
When you go out, so when you are socialising with your friends,
I need to drink.
Why do you need to drink?
You might have a thought, I need to drink to relax, for example.
Okay, yeah.
And then the next why.
Why do you feel like you need a drink in order to relax?
Because I have a feeling of anxiety around groups.
Okay. Why do you have the feeling of being anxious in groups without alcohol?
Because I have a belief that I will not be able to cope with the situation without being like more outgoing, for example.
So the situation will be almost felt like it's made easier with alcohol.
Yeah.
So why is it that you feel that the situation is made easier with alcohol?
Because it will make my feelings that I'm feeling inside better. They will be less sort of anxious, and they will be more bubbly and positive.
Okay. Why do you have that belief? Because it's now a belief that, is it belief that's the only way you're going to feel comfortable in that situation?
It might be that I've just not tried socialising like that for so long. Maybe not since being a kid, or since something happened, and I've just got this belief that I have to have that thing to relax or be interesting.
There we go. So we've gone through about 4 or 5 whys, and this has now started to come into other solutions. The solutions change now. You don't have to sit there castigating yourself on that how many drinks you're having, but is it the fact that you can give yourself other situations where you are socializing without drink involved, just to give yourself the back catalogue of experience that I can have a good time without this.
Yeah.
And once you have more of that built up, then it shakes this belief.
Yeah. So that's a great little framework there. Maybe we've put on the screen those steps that we went through.
Because when it applies to behaviour, you're typically going to find that each why is going to take you back into each one of these steps, if you like.
Yeah.
So you go from the event. First why will take you to the thought that you have about the event.
Yeah.
Second why is going to take you to the emotional feeling that precedes the thought. The next why is going to take you to the belief system that you have that leads to the feelings, that leads to the thought, that leads to the event. And then before that, you're going to find the schema, which is a patchwork of the collective beliefs someone has that they take to pretty much every situation in their life.
Yeah. They're almost like Russian dolls, aren't they?
Yeah.
So like the thoughts are contained within the feeling. When you have a certain anxiety feeling, it'll have a paradigm. It makes the thoughts kind of stick in a paradigm. Like they're quite like limited. When you have a bit of an anxiety, they can be quite limited. Thoughts are not really open. So it's like it goes within that Russian doll.
Yeah.
And then the thoughts, the emotions are only contained within your belief system that you've built up. So yeah, this the 5 whys is a way of stepping back out of a paradigm into a dimension above, in a way, which gives more information.
Above, around, beside.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's to see the bigger perspective.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's just about absolving you of your responsibility.
No.
I think it's to get bigger perspective, not only to know where your locus of control ends, but also to get an idea of what other solutions could work. So it's not to say, don't worry about it, it was never you. The 5th why says that it was, Napoleon. Historically, had Napoleon behaved differently? It's not about that.
Well, there is some argument about why in Britain we don't express very much. Have you heard this? It's something to do with, was it something to do with in France? They were very expressive, and then during the 100-Year War, there was some campaign about the French being too expressive, so it was a bad thing. I don't know if this is true. We'll put a link if we find this. But
there's a massive sweeping historical generalisation.
But it is an example of how you can imagine how stuff, if you go back in time, will affect things.
But this is the point, that even if you understand the bigger perspective, whether it's from your generation, hundreds of years ago, human evolution, or even physics, when you understand it from all these different levels, it's not just to absolve you of responsibilities, it's to say what other ins could you have to changing that pattern. So you're not using chemicals to degrade the statue, you're just turning the lights the other way.
And you're not using chemicals to make yourself interesting when you're drinking.
Extra add-on, which heads a different location before putting this up. I wanted to talk about the 5 whys as where they might not work. In particular, the concept of received whys. So the 5 whys that we tried assumes that there's this chain of causality, and if you keep going back, you'll get different perspectives. Maybe the thought, the feeling, the pattern, and then maybe generational things that influence the why of the person in the moment. But what if actually it's not that thought through? What if in the person's perspective, it is a received why? And some examples of this are, for example, when you're getting told what to do, or when you're just copying what everyone's doing in society. So the whys aren't really thought through. A very common one is why people get certain jobs, or the feel and the urge to get married, or the societal expectations for people getting married. Why, if we need to follow that back, why are you getting married? Well, my parents think it's a great idea, and everyone else is getting married. Well, in a way, we don't need to go into why everyone else thinks this is a great idea. It should stop there. That's not a real why. What are your thoughts about this received whys aspect to it?
Well, I think I really like that phrase, received whys. And it's something that really interests me because I'm interested in working with beliefs, and beliefs we take on without really thinking about them. They're kind of reactions. They're sort of safety driven. The nervous system's involved often, but we often take sort of beliefs on from parents or teachers, or from our nervous system in a way that is unquestioning. So yeah, so kind of saying that as you go down the whys, there's a potential you might be taking on the paradigm from the why above, and that might have taken on the paradigm above, almost like the matrix within the matrix.
Or actually, none of them are your whys. And if you're really stuck in the whys, like, actually, why am I doing this? And I've got no better reason than everyone else's, or it seems like a good idea, or that's what they suggested at school,
Yes.
or my parents are hounding me into doing this. All of these things are, especially if it's a long term, like a marriage or a career, or eventually for something long term enough, there's going to be enough struggles and steps and trials and tribulations you have to go through. If you don't have your internal motivation, your internal why, my parents saying it's a good idea is not going to cut it. Eventually, that's going to wear thin. Or everyone else is getting married, so I did as well. Is not going to cut it when difficult times happen in them.
Yeah.
So this is received wise aspect is quite important. And also another thing that I wanted to touch upon was whether the assumed wise is maybe another thing. So if we kind of don't go through the real motivation, let's say rather than a typical thing in this day and age is I want to make a lot of money. Very good. I want to jump and make a load of money. Well, let's do the 5 whys on that. Why might someone want to make a lot of money? And it would be great if this is something that people could explore amongst themselves. But I'm going to start having a guess at this. That one of the reasons might be that they think I want to be free to be able to do what I want, because the money is going to free me up to do that. Well, let's start doing the 5 whys. Why do you think you need a lot of money from a job that you're working in order to do what you want to do when you want to do? And then you can follow it further. Well, it might be that I'm quite busy or the things I want are quite expensive. Why do you think that the things that you want to do will be sufficiently expensive that you're going to need the job that's going to pay a lot for you to be able to do the things you want? And so suddenly you start to turn this around and be like, well, I actually do I want really expensive things when some of my most core and treasured memories are playing football with my friends with 2 jumpers for goalposts. And that's pretty cheap. It takes a bit of organization. You've got to get back in touch with those people, and we're all a lot older now. So if you fall now, we might have to go to hospital. But it's a different thing, which you can only really get at if you explore the whys in more detail. I think this is quite interestingly put by Ramit Sethi, who has been on loads of other podcasts. We might put a link to that. In terms of determining you really want to do with money. There's a option where I'll make the money first. And once I've got enough money, whatever that is, once I've got enough money, then I'll be free to do everything. Well, actually, money traps you. It's the work that is getting you to a lot of money robs you of so much time that you don't even have the time left. That matches the time of your family and friends or you to do things with them.
Yeah.
I personally think, and this might not apply to everyone, but I think you chase further back enough. Once you get to why I want this, why I want that, usually the end result will be, I eventually would like to be in a situation with my friends and family, enjoying myself and having a good time in a way where I'm accepted and possibly respected. And my contribution within that social group is respect. And that's often what the job or career or marriage or all these things are eventually trying to align you towards, is that somewhere in the back, when all the ducks are lined up in a row, you'll be at that situation, the party, the barbecue, something that you do with the friends that you love, and everyone's free there to have a good time. And enjoy themselves, but actually all of those ducks need to be aligned in their own, not just yours, actually everyone who you're expecting to be at the barbecue. But it might be that you've been so successful that they feel as though I don't want to go to that barbecue, or I've got to now compete with them. Because actually, you could have done this a lot earlier on. You didn't need any of the extravagances. You didn't need to show off at these gatherings, but you did just want to be in a situation where you were having fun and accepted by the people that you love.
Yeah. Yeah. That status, wanting money for status, that's a big driver. And you're making me wonder if what whys come from some of those core needs and wants, or from what's the word, fears, basically, from those sort of main fears that we have. And I'm wondering if the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is an invitation. Each level could be an invitation to, I imagine a why will come from each level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Oh, if we're going into this kind of this is quite fun. How this has gone off for a tangent entirely. Why don't we talk about the size of sex cells?
Oh, okay.
That really go around a tangent. So why is status required, and who is status required by? Now, I'm not going to. This is a sweeping generalization, gender biased generalization, but typically, until recent decades, there has been more of a status drive for men. And whilst that is changing, and that's a good thing, everyone should be able to go for what they want. You should have the freedom for that. I agree with that. But typically, historically, there's been more of this drive towards status games for men in particular. And if you really want to get into the why of that, it could just come down to the size of our gametes, size of our sex cells. To put a few whys back into evolutionary biology on this, if you're the example that's used is if you look through the animal kingdom, the species where you've got the smaller gametes, or the gametes which are whoever is left with the offspring, the pregnancy, that remember that gender not always female, that gender has more investment and more risk associated with procreating.
Yes.
In male seahorses, it's the opposite. So the females will lead the eggs, and then the males will then add their sex cells afterwards, and then they are responsible for the pregnancy. Now, this mismatch between in each species, how this works, means that there's a level of competition. And in order for sperm competition in humans, because you are much more likely if you're ultimately more responsible from a physiological side with the pregnancy, then you have more choice, you have more selection, and you are more likely to have your sex cells go on for reproduction. That's not the case for the people who are the members of the species that are competing, in this case males. How can you have more competition? How can you establish that order of competition or status games? But there's a very long way around of like all the different whys that this might trace back to. Is like, why are we trying to chase after status anyway? To ensure that we get back to procreation again. This is obviously very biased from an evolutionary biology perspective, and there's many other perspectives to take, but it's one of the whys that you could consider.
Yeah. I mean, that all makes sense, doesn't it? And even the status, there's some kind of status that you get from what would have been like a good family 100 years ago, and they're needing it to be a good family or something. That would be a presentation that this family would support the offspring, and you'd be kind of going into like something that's quite established or well connected. Yes, the status being a very wide term, covering a lot of bases there.
The resources, and once again, it's that mismatch. Is like if in the species I am not taking more physiological risk with the pregnancy, then what physical resources can I bring to the situation? And in this situation, it'll be status games. So it's about, and I mean, by all means, but this is the thing, like, appreciate the why.
Yeah.
Look through the 5 whys and really apply it to yourself. Like, is this why? Is this why I really want? Is this the status game I want to play for that end?
Yeah.
Check it.
Yeah. Can we distill that down into like a simple sort of phrase or something to look out for? So let's say someone is looking at their whys, why they're doing things, why they feel like they're sort of in a paradigm,
Mm.
and they're trying to work out, what is my real motivation behind this? What do I really want? What would be sort of questions that they could look at that could kind of tie all the stuff that we've sort of talked about in?
So I suppose one part of it could be, can you actually do the 5 whys? That isn't received wise.
Yeah.
If you're doing the 5 why and applying it to yourself, like, why do I think this? It's based on this feeling. Why do I feel this? If you're going through that and you're getting somewhere, fine, work it through the end. If you get to some part of it and an answer is, it seems like a good idea,
Mm.
everyone else around me is doing, has told me that this is the way to go about things, that's fine. Even applying the why to maybe what your parents said isn't enough. Because how can we be sure of where they got it from?
Yeah.
So the assumptions increase. The only way this is really going to work, the 5 why truly for behavior, is if you have an internal motivation, but you're quite clear on how you got there yourself. And then it might be just through dissecting a few things, going back through this, maybe back through recent history,
Yeah.
so you're thinking in a certain way, you might be able to change things around and your options.
Yeah. And I think if you are having this kind of repeating patterns in life, or something's not feeling satisfying, and you keep pushing towards it, whether that's making money, and sort of some little voice is just saying there's something not right there, or why am I resisting so much? Why is there so much self-sabotage? That might be that higher self, if you want, or just the mind's ability to like problem solve, or the subconscious or something like that. Just if something's got resistance, then you're not seeing the whole picture, and that'd be a great invitation to do these exercises. And
Yeah. It's not even necessarily your own higher self. It might just be actually you're just hitting your head against a brick wall over and over again. And that life and society around you is telling you this is not the way.
yeah,
Um, there's so many different interesting historical approaches to that same story. 10 plagues in the Bible being an interesting one. Where life itself can make it very clear, don't go in this direction. Don't go in this direction. And if you keep going, there's an escalation in all of the signs, both internally within you, your own resistance, and even the events happening to you, telling you this isn't quite the right thing. Re-examine your whys and maybe go the other way.
yeah. Okay.